The experience of the past 25 years has taught me that it's only people that can save our planet. People taking responsibility for their own lives. Recently, I came to the Himalayas to find one of my main sources of inspiration. Sundarlal Bahuguna is a leading light in the Chipko movement, famous for its success in protecting the remaining forests of the Himalayas. What do the forests bear, these children are asking? For the loggers, it is timber, resin, and foreign exchange. But for these children, trees have a different value. What do the forests bear? Soil, water, and pure air. Soil, water, and pure air are the basis of life.
Nakata, nakata, yorakha jagwali. Gadenyo mapani serama chikule. Kile kile hasadu burasa kupule. Yubaje burase kuyu thandu pani. Pashu mana kya kai mane parana. Ganga Jamuna kai chane sirwane. Pashu mana kya kai mane parana. Ibanje bura se sikule ki dali. Patyo mach duri jadyo mach pani. Sur surya batha che barika batwani.
The Chipko women have successfully fought to stop commercial logging. Chipko means to hug, and by literally hugging trees, the women save them from the fatal axe. These slopes, which once grew pines for pulp, will now grow trees for soil, water, and pure air, also for fodder and fuel, for which the women must now walk miles. Together with Indian environmentalist Smitu Kothari, I followed Bahuguna to his ashram, where the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi are put into practice. I asked him how Gandhi can help us learn to live in harmony with our environment.
Gandhi was the exponent of Swadeshi. Swadeshi means that you have to satisfy your needs from your surroundings. And he said that nature has enough to fulfill the needs of all, but nothing to satisfy the greed of a single person. And today what we are doing, our behavior with nature is that of a butcher with the animal.
Sundarlalji, what is the principal lesson that we must all learn from the experience of the Chipko movement?
The lesson is very simple, that wisdom will decide our destinies, not the knowledge. Knowledge will destroy us. And then again, people should realize their power. The people are powerful, not the centralized governments and the big corporations. And people should organize themselves in small communities, and they should decide their own things themselves. Then again, this earth is our mother, and our behavior with the earth should be that of a child with a mother. Then again, all over the world now, we should oppose such activities which in the name of development are taking us towards destruction. And it is why the Chipko movement says, yes to life, no to death. That means all activities which take us towards life, towards creation, towards creativity, we should take them forward, and other activities which take us towards destruction, we should fight against all those activities.
Everything is getting centralized.
That's right.
Everything is decided by people thousands and hundreds of miles away from here. And I think the importance here is really for the recovery and the regeneration of the access and control over one's lives.
Yes.
And I think that's central to the message.
It's central. Unfortunately, economic development moves in precisely the opposite direction. The more you develop economically, the more control shifts from control over their lives, over their resources, shifts from people in the communities to these central bodies in the cities, to the state and the corporations. That is a problem.
And it is why we say that people should revolt against this religion of economics.
That's right.
Today the religion, economics has become a religion. And when economics becomes religion, the behavior of man becomes most uneconomic. And dollar becomes your god.
1,000 miles away in the state of Madhya Pradesh, 60,000 people have converged on the town of Harsud. This town will soon be submerged by one of several huge dams that the World Bank insists on funding. This is the first mass demonstration against all forms of destructive development, even though it will drive 1 million people from their lands to a fate unknown.
We pledge to fight for just development, equal opportunity for all, and for the right of the people to participate fully in the decisions that affect their life. We further pledge to use all means at our disposal to form a human wall of resistance and stop the subversion of our life-supporting systems, lands, rivers, forests, and air. We pledge to join hands with all others who think and act as we do, and create a new tomorrow for ourselves.
These villagers are defying governments, corporations, and institutions like the World Bank, refusing to let their lives be devastated by so-called economic progress. I traveled to Dehradun in the foothills of the Himalayas to meet a brilliant scientist turned philosopher and ecologist, Vandana Shiva. We discussed modern man's devotion to economic and scientific progress. I mean, one of our Nobel laureates actually went so far as to say that if man cannot adapt to the world that science is creating for him, then man must be changed. Don't you feel that this attitude has become mainstream now?
There really seem to be two kinds of mainstreams involved. One mainstream is, of course, the dominating and dominant mainstream, where scientific thought has created its own kind of religion, a religion based on butchering up the earth, fragmenting it, reductionist religion based on controlling people as well as nature, a religion based on the power of experts, and a de-empowering of all others. There's a second kind of belief, a second kind of worldview, which seems to be the mainstream for most people and most cultures which have survived over centuries. It's a belief system in which life processes are considered sacred and inviolable and have to be protected. The sacred in science is science itself and its products. The scientists have become the new high priests. The arrogance is best conveyed to me in the vision of the future that our technology advisor in India has for the 21st century. He sees India as being based basically on biotechnology. And according to him, and I'll quote, "We're going to create new life forms, we're going to re-engineer man. Because the food we eat today, the waste we produce, is based on a highly inefficient machinery. Why should we go to the toilet twice a day," he asks, "because it's all based on an imbalance in the input-output. We're going to have to re-engineer man." The assumption is we started with imperfection. We are imperfect, the plants are imperfect, the animals that have sustained our life are imperfect.
So, Vandana, what is the way forward?
They are the steps that have been taken by Chipko. They're the steps that are now being taken by tribals across the world, in Amazonia, in Harsud. And those are the steps in which people are saying, no, we will not allow the destruction of life processes, because this is sacred. The earth and her life support systems are inviolate. And an understanding of that creates its own kind of knowledge. It creates a knowledge that has to be participatory. It creates a knowledge which has to be based on the respect of the earth, not on the control and subjugation and rape of it.
I'm in the Himalayan village of Nagini. A Chipko meeting has been going on for 3 days. At the moment, a lady called Sudesha is singing a song she composed herself. Sudesha spent 14 days in jail a few years ago for defending the forests against the loggers, but she's as determined as ever to continue doing so. Everybody here, just like her, fully realizes that their real wealth is their natural environment, and in particular the forests, and that their welfare, indeed their survival, depends entirely on protecting them against further destruction. Like her too, everybody here fully realizes that they can't count on the government or on international agencies or on corporations. They can only count on themselves. And to be effective, they've got to join together. They've got to organize themselves. They've got to cooperate. And by doing so, their movement can only spread, as indeed it is doing throughout this country. For me, this is the model. This is exactly what we should be doing throughout the world. It's our only chance. We must all become Chipko activists.
Representatives of forest people from Brazil, the Philippines, and other countries staged a sit-in today in the United Nations lobby in New York. They were armed with wheelbarrows carrying the signatures of 3 million people demanding that the United Nations General Assembly call an emergency session to halt the destruction of tropical and temperate rainforests.
Secretary General, many thanks for receiving us.
Nice to meet you.
After a 2-hour sit-in, the Secretary General agreed to meet us. And some of us are here with me today, and we're coming here to ask for an extraordinary general meeting of the General Assembly of the United Nations to discuss what must be the most important, the most serious crisis facing us today. Since then, we have heard nothing. Governments around the world have effectively turned their backs on us. How much longer can we allow governments to sanction the destruction of the natural world in our name? An extraordinary meeting of General Assembly, but this must be the greatest security crisis that man has ever faced. Nearly 20 years after the original, my colleagues and I on The Ecologist are writing a new blueprint. The success of Chipko and other third world environmental movements is a great inspiration. There are also signs of hope at home.
We've got the Green Party, which really arose out of the Blueprint for Survival. And it seems to me that at least we have got a groundswell of opinion which will support the notions that we might produce in Blueprint, in the second Blueprint. And I would say, that actually people are now prepared to listen to the messenger rather than necessarily kill him.
If we're going to be taken seriously as a blueprint, we're not only going to have to put the analysis of what's wrong and how badly wrong it is, and tell us as it is, that we're in really deep crisis, but we're going to have to put some very practical measures forward. Now, within the context that this is a 50-year strategy, we're not going to be able to change things overnight.
The Pierce report, commissioned by the British government, which is talking about we have to put a cost on all the environmental benefits, but it's a very limited approach, because how do you put a cost on a stable climate? What is our climate worth to us? What is an ice cap worth? You know, what is the species of polar bears worth? You know, we just can't cost these things.
The whole of our society is hooked on this destructive development, which is rapidly transforming our environment into a desert. And that's why we do need very, very, very massive changes. People, I mean, are not willing to face the actual extent of the changes that are required.
It comes back to what we were saying about being hooked. Green consumerism is fine, but it doesn't give the message that it's going to be tough.
No.
These solutions are not going to be easy. You know, we've really made a mess of things, and this piecemeal approach is just, you know, buying a green product here or buying a green product there isn't going to do it. It's going to have to be major, fundamental changes.
I mean, if we consider one thing, that it's, at the moment, absolutely legal to cut down our forests, pour the chemical wastes into our groundwater. It's totally legal to do all the things that are destroying our environment. And also, worse still, it's politically expedient to do so. So much so that much of this destruction is actually subsidized by the state. They do very much what they like. I mean, and so does the bureaucracy. Think of the, I mean, the wonderful example is that of the French nuclearcrat who decided to put up a nuclear power station near some small community. And when it was suggested that he might consult the local people, he answered that classical rhetorical question, do you consult the frogs when you drain the marshes? Well, that is really what, that's how our politicians feel about the public. We are the frogs whose marshes are being drained. That's got to come to an end. I think that governments have been out of control. They've got to be brought back under social control again, just in the same way as industrialists have been brought back under social control.
I mean, is it decentralization?
For many years, I've asked myself, can we achieve a more fulfilling, less destructive way of life? Today, I'm convinced we can, by organizing ourselves and bringing governments back under our control. My answer will seem drastic, but I believe it's the only way forward. Many people dream of living in a village like this one, but the industrial system forces them to live in large cities. However, if we are to reconstitute our families and communities and minimize our impact on our natural environment, we have to return to living in small towns and villages. What is more, small towns and villages that are largely self-sufficient and self-governing and that are committed to an ecological way of life. That was very much the vision of St. Barb Baker, the celebrated man of the trees. I picture village communities of the future, he wrote, living in valleys protected by sheltering trees on the high ground. They will have fruit and nut orchards and enjoy leisure, liberty, and justice for all, living with a sense of oneness with the earth and with all living things. This doesn't mean we must all literally go back to the land. It means a simpler, decentralized way of life where we don't depend on cars and big corporations. Many would say that the vision of a society at one with nature is utopian, but not for me. For me, the vision of unlimited economic and technological progress with all the environmental destruction it will surely bring is far more unrealistic. In any case, do we really need it? After all, has God done such a bad job?